El Salvador, the smallest and most densely populated country in Central America, and the most dangerous. I've traveled to this tiny region to meet a gang that's brought terror to the streets. By far the biggest and most deadly in El Salvador. That gang is Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13. Just arrived in El Salvador. In fact, we're in San Salvador City, the capital. And we've come to try and meet Mara Salvatrucha, which is MS-13. Biggest and fastest growing gang on the planet. And notoriously the most violent. For 12 years, El Salvador was ravaged by a bloody and indiscriminate civil war. Since peace was restored in 1992, that violence has been replaced by a new conflict between El Salvador's two rival gangs, the 18th Street and MS-13. What I want to know is, how did these gangs develop so quickly, and why are they so violent? My journey begins here at the principal courthouse in San Salvador to see for myself just how bad the gang problem is. Almost immediately, I'm struck by the number of handcuffed youths on display, many of whom proudly identify themselves as gang members. My contact here is Tom Gibb, a British journalist who's lived in El Salvador on and off since the Civil War. He's going to act as my guide and interpreter. Tom, can you tell me a little bit about where we are?
We're at the Central Criminal Courts for San Salvador. That's these buildings, and then over there behind us there's the morgue. And that's really the two ways out for an awful lot of gang members. They're either brought here and then go on to jail, or they're brought here dead.
That's one thing that I've noticed in the short period of time that I've been here is there are an awful lot of weapons, people carrying guns.
This is a very, very violent country. I really hoped at the end of the Civil War that there would be peace and real peace, but in fact the levels of violence have carried on at almost the same rates. There was a war in which something like 2% of the population were killed. That in British terms would be like 1 million people, and the legacy of that has continued. There's this war going on between the two main gangs, the 18th Street gang and the MS-13, the Mara Salvatrucha, and there are daily killings from that.
So that morgue over there's a busy place, yeah?
Yes, indeed. Yes, it is.
Some guys coming in with them. Who are these guys?
These are Special Forces police. They've got their faces masked so that they can't be recognised.
And they just pulled in a big guy, yeah?
Yeah. I don't know whether he's a gang member or not.
There's been a steady procession of handcuffed gang members escorted to the courthouse since I arrived. But this guy was different. Why did he warrant such tight security?
Hola. Hola, ¿qué tal?
I was just asking why he's here.
Yeah, ¿por qué te llevaron aquí? He says he doesn't know.
Doesn't know? So these guys have just dragged you in here for no reason?
Entonces ha venido aquí por ningún... No, they haven't told him anything. Yeah.
Can I ask him if this is the first time he's ever been brought here?
¿Es primera vez que llega aquí?
Aquí, sí, porque no he traído esa primera vez.
It's the first time he says he's been brought here.
I've got a feeling I don't know why, but I don't. So he has no idea why they brought him all the way from there here at all?
No sabe por qué te llevaron.
I was right not to trust this man. The heavy security was because of this. As a member of MS-13's rival gang 18th Street, he is accused of ordering the murder of two brothers aged just 8 and 12. As witnesses to a previous crime, they were both gunned down along with 3 other victims. I'm shocked at how he could just sit there so calmly, considering the crime he's accused of. One thing's for sure, El Salvador has a level of violence that far exceeds any other country I've been to. There are on average 11 murders a day within a population smaller than London. No wonder the city's morgue is such a busy place.
So, what happened here is a family are coming to pick up a body, a violent death, it's a stabbing. And this is the family, and this is how it's done here. They just turn up at the morgue, the body's there, they put it in their own coffin, and they take it home, have their wake, and they bury it. Life and death in San Salvador.
In El Salvador, death is indeed a common sight. This is a 20-year-old bus conductor executed by a single shot to the head in broad daylight in front of hundreds of witnesses. According to police sources, he had refused to pay protection money to a gang and paid the ultimate price. My first day in El Salvador, and I've already seen 2 bodies. Tom had informed me of a tough government policy known as mano dura, introduced in an effort to stem the growing gang violence. This new law gave the police powers of arrest for simply wearing gang clothes, having gang tattoos, or even hanging out in public with other gang members. Whilst this may have succeeded in putting more MS-13 behind bars, this draconian policy has actually backfired, forcing the gangs underground. In order to meet the gang, I need permission from high-ranking members who run MS-13 from prison. 4 hours from San Salvador is Ciudad Barrios, housing 997 of the most violent and influential gang members in the country.
Right, we're in Ciudad Barrios prison, just about to go and meet what we've come to see. It's 13.
So powerful are these inmates that it was them and not the warders who granted us permission to enter. As I walk through this imposing compound, I make a startling discovery. Everywhere I look, I see MS-13 gangsters and not one single warder. This is a prison guarded from the outside, and I am completely at the mercy of Hugo, a high-ranking MS member and a convicted murderer.
So this is a purely MS prison, yeah? And the reason that when did they start segregating the prisons into different gangs?
In 2001, right?
Because there was too much violence. Too much violence between
Too many problems, and then with all the gang members,
other gangs.
we got a fight every day, in different places, and now we got together, and everything is cool.
Before the authorities segregated prisons, members of MS-13 and their enemy, the 18 Street Gang, frequently clashed. It is said that in this very yard, MS-13 members played football with the severed head of a rival. It's stories like this that give MS-13 its fearsome reputation.
Right here we're going to the cells where we live at.
As I continue my tour of the prison, I'm struck at how bad conditions are.
It's all dirty. A lot of homies getting sick, diarrhea, homies getting diarrhea, fever.
Since the introduction of mano dura, this prison's population has increased by 80%.
Have you noticed since the mano dura has been in place, more people are coming here, yeah? Yeah? And what do you think about that?
But what the cop they said outside in the street, they said he was selling drugs, he was a killer, he's in this, he's in that. When he come out to the court, we put some years, 20, 15, 100 years. Most of the time, the people, they don't do that things. And they say that we're doing that. We're selling drugs.
So they're just being persecuted because they're MS, yeah?
Yeah.
But having said that, I mean, you guys are a violent gang as well at the same time. That's not, we're not choir boys, are we?
It's not the point, man. What the point is that the government, they gotta do a lot of, programs in the street, programs, to put these people to work, to do something.
Yeah, but having said that, I mean, people here have committed murder, haven't they? And they have shot people.
If someone from my neighborhood, they go to another neighborhood, he's gonna get killed. Because he's an enemy.
But what's the basis for that? He's an enemy. Why is he an enemy?
So he's from another neighborhood.
Right.
We don't get along.
You don't get along. Should we move on? Should we have a look round, guys?
Yeah.
I've no doubt about the level of animosity these men have towards their enemy, 18th Street. The fact that they refuse to say their name, referring to them instead as the other neighborhood, speaks volumes.
Why do you think people join MS?
Because they want to be part of the family, that's
Do you have any family outside?
Yeah, I got my son. I got a kid. He's 14 years old in Los Angeles.
Would you want your son to become a member of Mara Salvatrucha?
No. No, I tell my son, to be not hang around with the gangster. I tell my son, to be a normal people, not to be like me. I'm a gang member. I walk with my family, right? But the enemy, they know me. They don't respect my family. They shoot me in front of my family. That's the way that they act in the other neighborhood. And we know and we respect because we got our rules. But these people don't respect the family. They kill the family, they kill you. They don't give a fuck.
But you must have lost friends along the way, huh?
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
And you? You must have many friends, yeah?
Yeah.
Having met such a key player in MS-13 as Hugo, their existence seems straightforward. As far as I can see, their life is about gang rivalry and the protection of their territory through violence.
Well, that's the MS prison at Ciudad Barrios. Seems to me the government are more interested in incarceration than rehabilitation. From what I've experienced in there, I can't see any good coming out of this place.
My 8-hour round trip was certainly worth it. Not least of all because Hugo and his associates have given permission for me to meet with an active gang on the streets of El Salvador.
Bienvenidos al Aeropuerto Internacional El Salvador.
It's my third day in El Salvador on the trail of Mara Salvatrucha. By far the biggest, and it's fair to say, the most violent gang in the world. But MS-13 was actually started in Los Angeles in the 1980s by Salvadorian immigrants. And at the end of the Civil War, as these immigrants returned home, so did the gang. Even today, weekly flights dump more deportees on the Salvadorian authorities, many of whom are MS-13 gang members from across America. Two gangsters who found themselves on one such flight were Eric and Duke. Duke has been an MS-13 gang member since its beginnings in Los Angeles. I wanted to find out from him whether the violence of the Civil War was in any way linked to the emergence of MS-13.
You tell me a little bit about the history of MS.
At that time, the 80s and late 70s, in Los Angeles, there was a race war. Like, blacks didn't like whites, whites didn't like blacks, and this shit was happening. And we're from El Salvador, we don't understand that. We don't live race stuff right here. That was the United States. And then all of a sudden, we had to start defending ourselves. Since we were only a few of us, and we've seen through, so much shit down here. Shit, I mean,
You're coming from
at
the Civil
7
War.
years old, I used to find every time I used to go buy bread early in the morning, I used to find a lot of suckers decapitated by La Guardia.
By the police.
Escuadrón de la Muerte.
That's
all right? Death squads, all right? And they used to do all the dirty jobs, all right? So we saw and we learned, even though we didn't want to, violence was in us. Okay, we started defending ourselves.
Now, how did
We
that
started
manif-
being proud, you know, being from, you know, we saw whites being proud of being white. We saw blacks being proud of being black. Shit, why wouldn't we be proud of being Salvadorian?
So you were the hardest boys there?
Well, the thing is that
Now we are.
gangs at that time, they used to play being a gang member. You know, most you can get from a rival at those times was being stabbed. That was the worst that could happen to you. And we didn't come from a country where we were watching somebody get stabbed. We were watching somebody get 20 bullets in his chest and his head cut off and his arms cut off. That's what we used to watch as violent. And since for them, the worst that could happen was a bat in your back and or maybe being stabbed, that was the most. They had reached their highest violence point. And we said, man, fuck this shit. That ain't violent. They haven't seen shit. Let's show this, you know, show these fools what violence is. And that's how, you know.
I think it's really interesting how MS started as a backlash to persecution in the United States of America, and now it's travelled all the way back here. And you can see how this country must have been such a fertile breeding ground after the end of the revolution. The people with lots of weapons, there's still lots of kind of violence inside them. The interesting thing about them is that, you know, they don't seem to be like most gangs associated with any kind of drugs or making money. It all seems to be basically about, I hate everybody else that isn't in my gang, and I will kill everybody who isn't in my gang. And from what we've seen so far, that's exactly what they do.
Having established why MS-13 have such a violent mentality, it's time for me to meet an active gang on the streets of San Salvador. Journalist Tom has once again joined me to interpret.
And this is predominantly an MS area where we are now.
Right here is MS, yeah, but if you go a couple of blocks down that way, literally a couple of blocks, it's 18th Street, and then down in the other direction there's 18th Street, and then the other side there's a little island of MS as well.
So there's little satellites dotted all around.
Yes, they're living very close to each other, and a lot of the conflict is finding out who's who and where their families are and stuff like that. Just down here, the guys from the MS who we're going to meet were saying that a couple of guys, of their guys were shot a little while back. Yeah, by 18th Street they came in.
Just here?
Yeah, down here. They tend to come in quite a large group. They've got information where one of their rivals is, do a quick hit and go. It's a nasty war.
Yeah.
Waiting on a ridge is the gang itself, including Joker, Groupie, and their leader, Chucho. From this vantage point, they can keep watch over their territory.
The gangs are probably 30,000 strong between them, the two main gangs, but
they're divided.
They're divided into sort of cells in different bits of the city, so the clicker is just each cell and each bit of territory.
So clicker could be like a defined space, which is MS territory, and should anyone from 18 go in there,
they're dead.
They're dead. So these are the boys, yeah?
Yeah.
Hola, my name is Ross. Pleased to meet you.
Ross.
Ross. Nice to meet you guys. You doing? Okay, pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you, I'm Ross. Can you explain to me, guys, what a clica is? What does it mean?
Nuestra colonia, nuestro territorio. Ese es nuestro clica.
It's their neighbourhood, their territory. And that's the name of the clicker on the back.
Could you explain what the name is, though? See.
DLCS.
Sí, ¿qué quiere decir?
Delgado Little Psycho.
It's the small psychopaths of Ciudad Delgado.
So the small psychopaths of this particular area, and that's the name of the clique.
Yeah, that's the name they're giving themselves.
Yeah. So you guys are a member of MS-13, is that correct?
Yeah. Sí, son del MS.
A morir. A morir.
Until they die, they say.
Until they die. Yeah. Can I ask the question, why, guys? Why do you join? Why do you become a member of MS-13? What's the reason?
Entramos Bueno, yo entré por decir así, por desquitármelas, porque asesinaron a mi tío. Luego yo dije que me metería al barrio y lo hice y todavía sigo.
No, y muchas veces van, le tocan a la familia a uno y ahí es donde uno a huevo. Tampoco, dejarse no puede, tampoco.
If somebody from 18th Street comes in here and tries to kill or hurt somebody from MS-13, what is your response?
Es que si viene nosotros lo vamos a matar, no es a nosotros.
Sí.
Yeah, sure. But what is the conflict between the two gangs? What is it based on?
Lo más que
cuidando la zona de nosotros.
Y donde nosotros vivimos, cuidamos. Y va. Nosotros no lo podemos dejar que lo quieran venir a hacer donde nosotros vivimos, casaca.
Saca, pues.
Aquí estamos en El Salvador y aquí la salvatrucha es la que controla. Pues
Para
aquí no pueden venir
salvadoreña,
inventando
pues.
ellos aquí. Pues aquí nosotros somos, pues, y les guste o no les guste, pues sí.
Chucho and his clique were being surprisingly open, and I didn't take their threats towards their enemy as idle boasting. I've been told that to join the gang, you must kill a member of 18th Street, which means I was probably surrounded by 5 murderers. As the leader of his clique, Chucho knows more than most the need to guard his territory, and I wanted to find out how he defends himself.
Do you use weapons to protect yourself? Yeah, you do? Are you carrying one on you now? You are. Could you show it to me?
Se puede ver?
It's there. And it's loaded, isn't it? Can I just see if the mag's in there? Have a look. The bullets. Yep, that's a real bullet. And if I get back in the mag, that would kill you. Thank you very much. Gracias. How far away are the nearest enemies? So most people here, including some of your family, going and buying bread and milk must be a complete nightmare. I mean, it's you risk getting killed going and getting your groceries.
Para un poco el pelo también, como pues sí, de vez en cuando vienen a molestarme, quererme matar. Como pues sí, también, como a mí también se han metido como familia, los bajos, mi familia tienen miedo también de que pues sí me puedan matar a otra. La vez pasada, hace bastante, me mataron a mi carnal, él no oía ni hablaba, era sordomudo y ellos me lo mataban. Cosa de que por mí, porque yo soy el de la mala, ¿va? Él no era nada, pero como por lo mismo, ¿va? Sí. Con él se las desquitaron, ¿entiendes? Vamos.
Just been a day in Delgado, meeting Chucho and his friends, the clique of MS-13 in Delgado. Striking thing to me was that, you know, MS-13 is supposed to be the second biggest threat to America after Al-Qaeda, and they look like sort of bunch of scared lads to me. And to watch the poverty they're living in, they don't appear to me to be such a big threat as people just living in fear.
What worries me is that these are scared kids with guns. I can see why Chucho and his gang arm themselves, living where they do, surrounded by their enemies. But for the police, these armed gangs are their greatest concern, and for me, things are about to get even more serious. I've been invited to accompany the police on an armed raid to a notorious drug and gang district in San Salvador. Having seen for myself the weapons used on the streets, it's now time for me to witness the full force of the law.
I have to say, looking around, it looks more like we're about to invade a small country rather than go on a drugs bust.
As night draws in, I'm still unable to find out exactly where the raid will be, and I'm not the only one.
The guys to my right are a mixture of SWAT, their special elite forces, and military. And what happens is none of them know exactly who they're going after yet. They're not told until they actually arrive on the ground.
The reason being is they're worried that these guys would pass the information on, so it's very much on a need-to-know basis, and obviously these guys don't need to know.
After a 3-hour wait, the call is made, and approximately 250 heavily armed troops are dispatched. I must say, not for the first time on this trip, I'm more than a little nervous.
We're well on our way now. I think we're about 2 minutes away. I've definitely had better Wednesday nights out, that's for sure, and drier ones.
As we arrive at the scene, I'm left to my own devices and run in after the armed police.
They can't get into this place, obviously it's one of the strongest defended places here. So they're going in over the top, as it were.
As the police force their way in, I am surprised at the number of local press crews here. With such media interest, I wonder just how covert this operation really is.
You can see he's got boot marks on his back. He's been told to stay where he is. He's been cuffed. We've been told to leave, so bless you.
I learnt afterwards that this operation was targeting 6 known gang members and drug dealers. Only 2 were caught. Despite the best efforts of the police, the criminals were tipped off and 4 escaped. Who knows if that warning came from a corrupt policeman or a lookout. What I do know is the local press have their pictures, the community is frightened, and the police certainly look like they're doing their job. I can't help but feel that last night's show of force by the police was exactly that, a show. With all the press and photographers running around, I wonder if the publicity was of more importance than the arrests. Lionel Gomez is an investigator with powerful connections and ties to the American Senate. He has his own theories behind the government's attitude towards gangs like MS-13.
Everybody will tell you that the clickers are involved in drugs. They're either dealing with drugs or moving drugs. Well, there's a problem with that. According to DEA, there's a movement of 570 tons of cocaine that go through the...
570
tons
of
cocaine.
Pure
this
cocaine.
This is the pure cocaine. This could be worth $30,000 million. The clickers are not doing that.
How can they?
They won't live the way they live if they were moving 570 tons of cocaine. In order for the big business to exist and move about in an efficient way is to have the ambiance, the society, have a lot of corruption. So it's very useful to have clickers at the bottom because it catches the attention of the press and it's very flamboyant because of the tattoos. But the real story is the guys that move 570 tons.
So who are they?
Well, I will say some of the most powerful people in the region.
I.e. the people in the government, businessmen?
Maybe, yes.
So i.e. the biggest gang in the country is probably the government.
Yeah,
that 50...
They don't wear tattoos.
They don't wear tattoos?
They wear Rolex watches and they wear very expensive ties.
And what you're saying is it suits them to have a gang warfare going on because it acts as a smoke screen and takes everybody's eye off the fact that what they're actually doing is shipping this cocaine through the country. But if the corruption is so obvious, why doesn't anybody do something about it?
Fear. They kill you here. They can starve you to death. Or they can shoot you. Or you can have an attack done by one of the clickers. I mean, somebody can steal your purse in the street, anybody, and can shoot you. This is a very casual country when it comes to violence, but very effective.
According to Lionel, corruption is a huge problem in El Salvador, and I'm inclined to believe him. $1 million coke deals couldn't be further away from the lives of gangsters like Chucho. For him, life is more about staying alive and providing for his wife and child even if they are in prison.
With Chicho and his family, he's come to see his wife, Ingrid. She was arrested with him for possession of marijuana, but while she's been in prison, not only has she had Chicho's baby, but she's also been accused, along with 13 other women, of murdering somebody inside prison. So now she's being held indefinitely inside. This is the first time that Chicho has had an opportunity to see his daughter. So we're going to watch him meet her for the first time.
As a gang member, it's far too dangerous for Chicho to use public transport. Not only would he have to travel through several 18th Street territories, but he also runs the risk of being arrested under mano dura. Only by traveling with me could he and his family make this trip.
How does it feel to see your daughter?
Bien.
Bueno, ¿eh?
Me hace falta tenerla conmigo. A las dos. Me hace falta tenerla conmigo a las dos.
These things happening to you, does it ever make you question about being in the gang?
Sí, o sea, de que más que todo, ustedes saben de que uno, o sea, de que uno es el que anda en estas cosas, va, y por mí ha sufrido bastante ella, tanto como ella como los niños también, las niñas. Ajá, cosa de que pues sí, yo no hubiera querido que en ningún momento fuera así, va. Lastimosamente así fue, va. Primero Dios, ya no va a volver a pasar esas cosas así. Sí, porque el problema soy yo, ellos no tienen nada que ver.
But it's not just Chicho's wife and child who have suffered. His mother has also had to bear the pain of her son's gang life.
You tell me about your concerns for your son.
Pues el temor que tengo es que me le hagan algo. Ya van, perdón, como 3 veces que me lo han intentado matar. Desapareció un primo también que me lo mataron por lo mismo. A mi hijo también y a mi hermano, que hace poco también lo mataron. Porque yo siento de que hay mucho riesgo, estamos corriendo, tanto como él, como nosotros, como familias.
Well, that's family life in MS-13. It's quite heartwarming to see Chicho with his child for the first time. Also, you might think that most people would try to get out of here as soon as they got in here. However, Chicho is spending the night.
Conjugal visits are the norm in El Salvadorian prisons. Chicho's mum can only hope this overnight stay with his family may go some way in persuading him to find a life away from the gang. And no wonder, as the story is indeed tragic. If I doubted that, I was soon given a graphic example of what it must have been like for her to lose her brother and her son to gang violence. So far, I've spent a week with MS-13, the gang the Americans dub the most dangerous in the world. There's no denying they're a violent group, but this is a country with few opportunities and the chips are heavily stacked against them. Under mano dura, the police have the powers to arrest anyone displaying gang tattoos, and having them makes getting a job near impossible. So for those few who want out, getting rid of these markings is a big incentive.
We've come to the countryside to visit a government-run project. Its aim is to rehabilitate female gang members. But the major incentive for most of the women coming here is the fact that it offers you the chance to remove your tattoos.
This centre offers education and vocational training to both MS-13 and 18th Street female gang members, as well as a creche to look after their kids. It's the first time I've seen the two gang enemies together since I've been here.
So who's MS here?
¿Quiénes son MS? Levanten la mano.
And how many 18th Street? 18th Street, yeah. Thank you. So what was the attraction for you to join a gang?
A mí me atrajo.
¿Sí?
O sea, que quería ser igual que otra.
Mi caso es bien diferente, porque yo no quería meterme en las pandillas, pero a mí me agarraron a la fuerza. Saltaban encima de mí.
¿Cuánta gente te brincó?
18 personas eran.
18 people.
Hembras y varones.
We hear that a lot of people get raped inside the Maras. It's true?
Por amor, tal vez.
No, porque si no quieren aguantar duro, piden por amor y le pasé el tren, pero no.
What's the train?
Nada. Es como va uno detrás de uno, va el otro, violación.
So the train is that one guy goes after another. That happens, does it a lot?
Sí, pero ahí depende. O sea, ahí depende de la que se va a brincar. Ahí le piden el permiso a la que se va a brincar. Si querés
Do you have more respect if you go in by violence or if you go in by love?
No, it's more respect if you do it by her. Because if you do it by love, then you're like a prostitute of the group.
All right. Yeah, one thing I don't understand is what's a woman's role inside the gang?
que nos gusta a todas es que nos respeten. Ganarse el respeto de todo. Una misión en la pandilla. Lo mismo que el hombre andar fregando, que le tengan miedo, tener timada a la gente, sin tener mando de nadie y todo eso.
When you say the women do the same thing that men do, so what, do you go and kill people?
Sí.
Yes. Look at you smiling like
Misiones
that.
son misiones.
A mission is a mission. So if you're told to go and kill someone, you go and kill someone.
Sí, porque es misión.
Have you done that?
¿Lo has hecho?
Yes.
You have, yeah?
I think it's move your eyes.
Yes. Sorry, we're laughing about killing someone here. It's quite good.
Everyone here has been incredibly open with me, but this honesty has been somewhat chilling. These smiling, laughing girls have just admitted to murder. When I made the arrangements to visit these girls, they'd asked me to bring one thing: makeup. It wasn't until one girl began to rub her face that I realized this heavy foundation had nothing to do with vanity.
¿Qué eras tú antes? ¿Qué barrio?
MS.
Can I ask her how old she was when she had that done to her face, or she did that to her face?
17.
17. And was it done as a punishment, or was it done because you wanted to have it done?
Un castigo.
It was a punishment.
Yo me quería retirar, ya no quería estar en esto.
So they said, you have this tattoo. What about if you'd refused to have the tattoo?
Me hubieran matado.
You would have been killed. So they put that on your face so you knew that you'd be in danger everywhere you went. Well, that was the girls. Uplifting, sort of depressing at the same time. The thing that staggers me is that an $18 bottle of makeup can save your life here, because if they go out with 18 or MS tattooed on their face, there's a good chance they could be killed. There were 12 girls in the course, so there were 14. One killed herself in a freak accident. The other one was shot only a week ago. The other amazing thing is that this is the only project of its kind in the whole of Central America.
I'm on my way to see Chucho and his clica one last time. But whilst driving, I'm given a stark reminder of the daily violence which occurs here. I arrive just as the coroner pulls up at the scene.
The vehicle's just turned up, and it's got a dead body in the back of it already, and there are two other homicides just up where it's parked. But you know, this is a thing that happens 10 times a day here.
As I endeavour to find out more information from the police, the mother of the victims arrives.
There are two bodies up there. They're brothers. They were both shot because they refused to pay protection money to the gangs. They ran a bus route. They refused to pay the money. So they've both been killed and dumped here. The thing that doesn't feel right is listening to the mother screaming for the death of her two sons. Feels wrong being here, really, but I have to say, I suppose it's all part of us telling the story of what it's like to be a gang member or to be a victim of a gang member living in this place.
Apparently 18th Street are the main suspects. Either way, these two young boys have been murdered for nothing more than a few dollars. It's fair to say that some of the people I've met over the past few days are victims of some terrible circumstances. but it's also impossible for me to feel any kind of sympathy for the gangs, having witnessed this terrible scene for myself. I'm almost relieved to hear that MS-13 were not involved in this murder of 2 innocent bus operators. That's not to say that Chucho and his clique aren't connected in some way to the daily atrocities here in El Salvador, because they are. I'm finding it increasingly hard to rationalize the violence I've seen, and a reason for these incessant killings still eludes me. The boys have brought me to Soyapango, another MS-13 controlled district and one of the most dangerous parts of San Salvador. Here are memorials to the dead, those who will not be forgotten.
These are people who have been killed in action, yeah?
Son hombres de que los hemos perdido, de que los han agarrado ahí en el camino, pues los han matado, los huevos.
And when these people are killed by other gangs, are their murders avenged?
Claro.
How do you know which person has pulled the trigger when one of your friends have died? Do you go out for that person specifically, or is it anybody from the opposing gang?
O sea, que más que todo, muchas veces busca la misma gente lo que ha hecho eso, ¿me entiende? Y a la misma vez, si no se agarra él, te agarran otros enemigos.
But doesn't that, you know, blood for blood all the time mean that there'll never be an end?
Está muy difícil.
Dentro de la mara más así.
Hasta donde quedemos. Hasta donde quedemos.
Should we get out of the rain, guys? It's absolutely pouring.
Chucho's frank remarks are not about bravado. They are simply the truth. It's a straightforward philosophy: kill or be killed. But whilst they're still around, these boys are going to enjoy themselves.
I have to say, stunning amount of Mary Jane, they call it, marijuana these guys get through. Mary Jane. I mean, we start very early in the morning, finish very late at night, and it's a continuous roll one, smoke one situation. And, you know, it's pure marijuana. There's no tobacco used.
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. There you go.
My time with MS-13 is almost up, but with true Salvadorian hospitality, Chucho's family have invited me to dinner to say goodbye.
Chucho, what do you think is the future for the clique here?
No se sabe, hasta ahorita no se sabe, nomás que siempre hay bastante de que, pues sí, como es que andamos en guerra, pues en la guerra, pues en un abrir y cerrar de ojos también nos podemos quedar, pues no sabemos hasta dónde va a llegar esto en realidad. Pues.
What do you think the future holds for you and your family?
O sea, que más que todo, ahorita que yo estoy con ellos, ahorita no la tengo a mi lado, pero porque ella está presa, pero pues sí, mi bebé, hasta que afuera, ellos están a la par mía, ellos van, por lo menos en el momento que están ellos conmigo, trato de estar, porque como le digo, no sé cuándo se me van a apagar las luces también.
Chucho, muchas gracias. Gracias, Joka. Gracias, guys. Thank you very much.
Having spent so much time with Chucho and his clique, I find it hard to imagine these boys capable of the violence associated with MS-13. But it would seem they are. After I'd left the clique for the final time, my sources informed me that Chucho may have been involved in the rape and murder of a 15-year-old girl, as well as the shooting of a rival gang member's sister. Whether these accusations are accurate or not, I don't know. But given everything I've witnessed during my journey through gangland El Salvador, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
MS-13 are probably the most dangerous and violent gang I've ever met. They have a structure, but I seriously doubt they're the international crime organization they're said to be. The Manadura has had little effect. The gangs seem to be as strong as ever, and the murder rate has gone up. It seems to me, unless there is some kind of economic or social change here that was promised at the end of the Civil War but never delivered, then the rise of MS-13 and gangs like it will only continue, and so will the violence and suffering.